Today, I'm going over the section in Chapter 4 called Creation and Communication. It is clear that while the content of any particular ego illusion does not matter, its correction is more helpful in a specific context. He's saying it's clear that anything that is within the ego illusion doesn't matter, but to correct that illusion, it is more helpful in a specific context. Meaning practicing forgiveness, meaning taking the things in our illusion that aren't real and that don't actually matter, but using them as a tool to awaken by using those specifics of those people, those situations that you feel that you need to forgive because you are judging and because they appear to have taken you out of peace, to forgive those, to use them as a tool to specifically forgive those within your specific ego illusory dream. So that's why it is more helpful in a specific context. Because next he is telling us that ego illusions are quite specific, although the mind is naturally abstract. So in truth, we are abstract beings. Our mind is abstract. But while we think we are here in our illusory dream, we can utilize the false specifics of our individual ego experience as a tool to awaken. Part of the mind becomes concrete, however, when it splits. Okay, so even though the mind is truly abstract, part of it becomes concrete when it splits, which we all have a split mind right now because we all think we're here. The ego is the part of the mind that believes your existence is defined by separation, right? That's what the ego is all about believing in separation, about believing in lack. Everything the ego perceives is a separate whole without the relationships that imply being. The ego is thus against communication, except insofar as it is utilized to establish separateness rather than to abolish it. The communication system of the ego is based on its own thought system, as is everything else it dictates. Its communication is controlled by its need to protect itself, and it will disrupt communication when it experiences threat, right? That's what the ego does. The ego perceives separation, therefore that is against true communication. The communication system of the ego is based in its own egoic thought system of separation and lack. And all of this is happening from the ego's desire to protect itself. This disruption is a reaction to a specific person or persons, right? In our illusion, we judge a specific person or persons. The specificity of the ego's thinking then results in spurious generalization, which is really not abstract at all. It merely responds in certain specific ways to everything it perceives as related. Okay, so what it's saying is that in reality, our minds are abstract and therefore general in a sense, because in our abstract truth, it is generalized that we love everyone, that we are the same, that we are all one. But the specificity of the ego's thinking results in spurious generalization, meaning false generalization, meaning having the generalization that we are separate, or that someone else is bad, or that we are bad, or that anything wrong has been done, that any kind of sin has happened. And so we generalize from our ego perspective in our world that all sorts of things are wrong all the time. And so that's the generalization that the ego makes, that the entire world is a threat, and that we are all separate. In contrast, spirit reacts in the same way to everything it knows is true and does not respond at all to anything else, nor does it make any attempt to establish what is true. It knows that what is true is everything that God created. It is in complete and direct communication with every aspect of creation because it is in complete and direct communication with its creator. This communication is the will of God. Creation and communication are synonymous. God created every mind by communicating his mind to it, thus establishing it forever as a channel for the reception of his mind and will. Okay, so it's taking what the ego has done in generalizing the world as being separate and full of lack. And here he's explaining the real truth that we are one with our creator and the true generalization of who and what we all really are, which is love. in communication with our Creator and with one another when we are in our reality and we know our truth. Since only beings of a like order can truly communicate, His creations naturally communicate with Him and like Him. Because in our natural state, who we truly are, we will naturally be experiencing God's love and sharing God's love with others as we see them truly. This communication is perfectly abstract, since its quality is universal in application and not subject to any judgment, any exception, or any alteration. Because in reality, everything is stable. There is no change. It is all consistent, and it is all love. God created you by this and for this. The mind can distort its function, but it cannot endow itself with function it was not given. Meaning we can deny it all we want, but it doesn't go away. Our truth is always true, even if we choose not to see it. That is why the mind cannot totally lose the ability to communicate, even though it may refuse to utilize it on behalf of being. Same thing. We cannot hide it. It is our truth, even if we choose to deny it. Existence as well as being rests on communication. Existence, however, is specific in how and what and with whom communication is judged to be worth undertaking. Being is completely without these distinctions. It is a state in which the mind is in communication with everything that is real. To whatever extent you permit this state to be curtailed, you are limiting your sense of your own reality, which becomes total only by recognizing all reality in the glorious context of its real relationship to you. This is your reality. Do not desecrate it or recoil from it. It is your real home, your real temple, and your real self. So he's reminding us once again who we truly are, which is abstract, which is consistent, which is in communication with our Creator, and that we can curtail or limit this truth as much as we choose, but we can never make it go away, and we can never not be that. That is who we truly are. That is our real self, as he tells us. God, who encompasses all being, created beings who have everything individually, but who want to share it to increase their joy. Nothing real can be increased except by sharing. So in truth, we are, even though we appear to be separate individuals, these separate individuals really are one. And when we share that oneness and we share that love, we share that truth, that is true sharing. And the reason why we naturally want to share this love is because it is our true instinct. Now, we've distorted this in our ego world. We all have an innate desire to be truly helpful and to extend love, but we keep trying to do it with special love or special hate within this illusory world. What he's explaining here is consistent, it's stable, and it's abstract. That is why God created you. Divine abstraction takes joy in sharing. That is what creation means. How, what, and to whom are irrelevant, because real creation gives everything, since it can create only like itself. Remember that in the kingdom, there is no difference between having and being. No different in truth. And there is in existence, right? In the ego world, there is a difference between having and being, but not in truth. In the state of being, the mind gives everything always. In truth, our mind is giving everything always because that's all we are. We are everything. We are love. We are creation. We are one with Source. And we are always giving that to ourselves and others when we know that truth. The Bible repeatedly states that you should praise God. This hardly means that you should tell him how wonderful he is. He has no ego with which to accept such praise, and no perception with which to judge it. In this world, we're always trying to turn God into some sort of human who needs our love and adoration, right? He's saying no. But unless you take part in the creation, his joy is not complete because yours is incomplete. And this he does know. And he knows it in his own being and its experience of his son's experience. The constant going out of his love is blocked when his channels are closed, and he is lonely when the minds he created do not communicate fully with him. All right, that's metaphor. That's a little story that Jesus is telling us about how God is lonely without us because we have closed off our minds, and he would desire for us to open our minds so that we can be a clear channel for God's love. But we're not doing that when we're lost in ego illusion. So it's not really true that God is lonely without us because we're not really here and God knows nothing of this world. It is metaphor. Jesus often speaks to us like we are tiny little children who need to hear these little stories that make sense in our ego world. So this is metaphor. But he's telling us a sweet little story about how God is lonely without us opening up to his love and without us sharing his love. God has kept your kingdom for you, but he cannot share his joy with you until you know it with your whole mind. Revelation is not enough because it is only communication from God. God does not need revelation returned to him, which would clearly be impossible, but he does want it brought to others. This cannot be done with the actual revelation. Its content cannot be expressed because it is intensely personal to the mind that receives it. It can, however, be returned by that mind to other minds through the attitudes the knowledge from the revelation brings. Okay, so what he's saying here is that revelation is not enough because it's intensely personal. Within this ego illusory world, we think that we're separate individual beings, and when we choose to study a course like this and we begin to awaken, we can experience something called revelation where we are in direct communion with God. And that's wonderful. And we definitely want to experience that because this is a huge part of the awakening process. We need to feel God's love. We need to feel the love of our Creator in order to understand who we truly are. But what he's telling us is that's not enough because that's only getting communication from God. And the reason that that's not enough is because we are miracle workers and our job is to not only receive God's love, but then to channel it through us to others. That is what he is talking about here. This is what he is asking us to do, is to share our one truth, our one mind with others. This is just another way of saying practicing forgiveness, which means to overlook the world. When we're not in peace, we want to look at what we think we see in our dream, what we want to blame and judge as being the reason for us not feeling in peace. And then we want to forgive it, meaning knowing, wait a minute, this thing isn't really here. This entire world is just a projection from my mind. And anything that I see out there that's disturbing my peace is really a part of me that is unhealed. So I want to overlook this mistake that I think that I'm looking upon right here and remember the truth, which is that we are all one and that we are all the innocent child of God. And when we do that, not only are we receiving God's love because we know that we are nothing but pure love, but now we are extending God's love as a channel through us to see that everyone else is also the innocent child of God and has done nothing wrong and isn't really here. And that we are really just all one. That is our job as miracle workers. God is praised whenever any mind learns to be wholly helpful, meaning practicing forgiveness. This is being wholly helpful. This is impossible without being wholly harmless because the two beliefs must coexist. So when you're practicing forgiveness, you're also being wholly harmless, right? Because when you're seeing everyone as the innocent child of God and you're seeing everyone as love, you are being wholly harmless. The truly helpful are invulnerable because they are not protecting their egos, and so nothing can hurt them. So when we take our belief in this ego world away, it can no longer harm us. It can no longer hurt us because we know that it's not real. And we become invulnerable to the false world because we no longer believe in it. Their helpfulness is their praise of God, and he will return their praise of him because they are like him and they can rejoice together. God goes out to them and through them, and there is great joy throughout the kingdom. Every mind that is changed adds to this joy with its individual willingness to share in it. The truly helpful are God's miracle workers, whom I direct until we are all united in the joy of the kingdom. I will direct you to wherever you can be truly helpful and to whoever can follow my guidance through you. Oh, beautiful. Love this. This is how I lived my life right here. In this last paragraph, it perfectly describes it. So, as time has gone on in my life and I've been practicing this course, I have definitely become more and more invulnerable as I have released my belief in the ego world. If I thought the ego world was real, I would feel extremely vulnerable and I would feel extremely persecuted in some instances. And I would also have a lot of blame for myself. But as I have let go of that and continued to understand that this world isn't real, it helps me exit the dream faster and faster each time I feel upset. It doesn't mean that I don't get upset. It doesn't mean that I don't fall for the ego's tricks. It just means that I am able to catch myself falling for those tricks much faster. And sometimes I don't even fall for it at all. So it just takes practice. And then as I continue to practice that, the way that I do it, there's a few different things that I do. First of all, if there's someone specific or something specific bothering me, I will overlook that thing, remind myself that it's not there, remind myself that we are all truly the innocent child of God, thank that other illusion for allowing me to see the unhealed parts of myself and to see everyone and everything as white light, the innocent child of God. So that's practicing forgiveness. That's one thing that I will do when I'm feeling like someone or something is doing something to me. Also, if I just feel sort of anxious or empty or fearful without even really thinking about why, I will catch that as well and realize, oh, wait a minute, I know what I'm missing. I'm missing God's love. That's what I need to focus on. So I will take many moments throughout each day to remind myself to receive God's love. Sometimes I don't like the word receive. Sometimes I use the word experience. I experience God's love. So I go with the flow within each moment of whatever Holy Spirit is directing me to do. And that's what it's talking about here when it says, I will direct you to wherever you can be truly helpful. All right, Jesus, Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it, but it's that higher part of our mind. When we give our mind over to that part of our mind, we are being truly helpful wherever we go and whatever we do because we are allowing Spirit to guide us. So like I said, practicing forgiveness, reminding myself to receive God's love because I know that that's all I've ever really wanted. And anytime that I feel upset, it's simply because I forgot to receive or experience God's love. That's it. So I will often remind myself of that. I also love the word disperse. If I'm feeling too heavy and too focused within my ego illusory body and world, I will remind myself to disperse. And another way to think about that is focusing on all the space that's in between all the separate things that we think we see. By focusing on the oneness that actually connects us all, it is a way for me to disperse my energy so that I'm not so focused within my illusory body, believing with my mind that this is real and this is who I really am and that I'm a separate being. So by using my mind to sort of soft focus out into the space that's between all of the seemingly separate things, it allows me to disperse my energy and to feel at one with everyone and everything. So that's another trick that I will use. But every single day, my intention is to do exactly what this whole section and this last paragraph is talking about, which is to be a miracle worker, to receive God's love, to feel that love, to experience that love, and then to channel that love through me as I practice forgiveness on everyone and everything within the world or even the multiverse. And so he's telling us here, when we choose to do this, when we give our mind over to him, that he will direct us to be truly helpful. And then we will naturally come into connection with whoever is ready and willing to follow the guidance of Spirit. So as it comes through us, it's going to go to whomever needs to receive that message. If we trust in our higher mind to lead us and guide us throughout our life each day, we will always be in the right place at the right time. And what we are extending will always go to the right people at the right time. That's the same for forgiveness lessons, whether we are identifying with ego and certain things appear to be happening within the world for us to learn lessons or for others to learn lessons from that. That is one way that everything is designed to happen the way that it is designed to happen. However, because of this course, there's this little sort of escape hatch that we can get out of many of these lessons by practicing forgiveness. And that's why he tells us in this course that he collapses time for us, that spirit collapses time for us as we practice forgiveness, because then we don't have as many lessons that we need to learn. Time is only here is an illusory classroom to go on as long as we need to wake up. So we can continue to be identified with ego and have all sorts of wonderful things line up through synchronicity in our lives to teach us lessons, to give us new forgiveness opportunities, to give us new opportunities to awaken. And what we do with those opportunities will determine how slowly or how quickly we will appear to awaken. And there's no test, there's no contest, there's no pressure to hurry up and do it. It's simply up to us. And the way that we sort of give ourselves pressure to do it is through pain. So as long as we feel pain and are unhappy here, we have an incentive to change our mind. And that's what this course does. It teaches us to change our mind about how we see and experience the world.